Okay. At this time, I would like to call the regularly scheduled Plan Commission meeting to order. Let the record reflect it is Thursday, April 16th, 2020 at 7 p.m. As a preliminary matter, this is Commission Chairperson Garrett Gray speaking. Before we get started, I would like to ask that anyone joining us remotely, please be patient and respectful as we navigate this meeting remotely. I would appreciate it if you each mute your phones until you're cued to speak. Thank you. In addition, I'd like to welcome our newest Plan Commission Commissioner, Kayla West. Kayla, welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Great, good to have you. In order for this meeting to run smoothly, I ask that you not speak out of turn and wait to be recognized before speaking. As a matter of protocol, please always state your first name when you begin to speak. During the various public hearings, I will recognize the petitioner at the appropriate time, and any questions from the public that were submitted to Village Hall by noon today will also be heard. Those wishing to follow along with the PowerPoint are encouraged to access the meeting through Tinley Park Television, streaming on YouTube. At this time, allow me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Commissioner Lucas Engel.
Present.
Commissioner Eduardo Manny.
Present.
Commissioner Tim Stanton.
Present.
Commissioner Angela Gatto.
Present.
Commissioner Marianne Aitchison.
Present.
Commissioner Jim Gaskell. Commissioner Jim Gaskell. He is not present right now.
Yes,
Commissioner
I am. I'm
Stephen-
sorry. Present.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Commissioner Kayla West
Present.
and Commissioner Stephen Vick. Okay, Stephen is not present. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. R. Bennett, Commission Secretary.
Present.
Paula Walrick, Planning Manager.
Present.
Laura Gadet, Deputy Clerk.
Present.
Kimberly Clark, Community Development Director.
Present.
Dan Ritter, Senior Planner.
Present.
Hannah Lipman, Management Analyst.
Present.
Attorney Kevin Carney.
Present.
Okay, thank you. Please note, throughout the meeting, we expect to have other individuals joining us via phone call pertaining to specific agenda items. Thank you in advance for your patience and cooperation through tonight's Plan Commission meeting, which is convening remotely via conference call. This open meeting of the Village of Tinley Park is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Pritzker's Executive Order 2020-07, issued on March 16th, 2020, which suspends the Open Meetings Act provisions relating to in-person attendance by members of a public body. Specifically, the Governor's Order 1 suspends the requirement in Section 2.01 that members of a public body must be physically present, and 2 suspends the limitations in Section 7 on when remote participation is allowed. The Open Meetings Act, OMA, requires public bodies to allow for public comment. Therefore, this meeting will include public comment via the established protocol. Even if members of the public do not provide comment, participants are advised that people may be listening who do not provide comment, and those persons are not required to identify themselves. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by web or audio conference. All of the materials for this meeting are available on the Village's website, and we recommend the members and the public follow the agenda as posted. The meeting is also live streamed through Tinley Park Television on YouTube. Before turning to the first item on the agenda, allow me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. As chairperson, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold your comments until your name is called. And also remember to unmute yourself. Further, please remember to mute your phone when you are not speaking, and remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please also start your comment with your name. For any response or comment on any item, please wait until I yield the floor to you. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through me, taking care to first identify yourself and then make your request. After members have spoken, I will afford public comment as follows. The general public was provided the opportunity to submit comments until noon today by emailing their public comment to clerk's office at tinleypark.org. Additionally, any individual had the opportunity to email the village clerk's office by noon today if they wish to speak to an item during the meeting. For those individuals, a representative of the village will call them during the meeting to take their testimony. Finally, each vote taken during this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Commission Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, this is Laura Godette. I just want to mention that Trustee Mueller is also on the line.
Okay. Duly noted. Trustee Mueller is on the line for tonight's meeting. Welcome, Trustee.
Thanks for having me.
Commissioner Engel,
Present.
Commissioner Manny,
Present.
Commissioner Stanton,
Present.
Commissioner Gatto,
Present.
Commissioner Aitchison,
Present.
Commissioner Vick, Commissioner Gaskell,
Present.
Commissioner West,
Present.
Chairman Gray.
Present. Let us now begin with approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 2020 meeting?
Commissioner Stanton, so moved.
Commissioner Engel, second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Stanton, seconded by Commissioner Engel. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Manny,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanton,
Yes.
Commissioner Gatto,
Yes.
Commissioner Aitchison,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaskell,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. The first item on tonight's agenda is a public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant Brian Potter, the property owner, a 152 square foot variation from section III.I, accessory structures and uses of the zoning code for the property located at 6420 167th Street in the R1 single-family residential zoning district. The granting of this variation will permit the petitioner to construct an 872 square feet detached garage instead of the permitted maximum of 720 square feet for residential accessory structures. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Commissioner Manny, so moved.
Commissioner Gatto, second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Manny, seconded by Commissioner Gatto. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel, Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion carried. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter will be sworn in before they speak after the staff's presentation. The village staff provided confirmation that appropriate notice regarding the public hearing was published in the local newspaper in accordance with state law and village requirements. Staff, please proceed with your presentation at this time.
This is Paula Walrick. Thank you and good evening. Please advance the slides, 3 slides. Can you advance the PowerPoint 3 slides? Okay, I'm not sure if Hannah or
Anna's doing.
Barb can. Okay. Okay. All right, little technical difficulties, but maybe, Kimberly, maybe you can text Barb and have her advance the slides for us.
What picture did you want?
Let's go on to slide 4, please. The video right now on air is of you two sitting there. We're not getting the PowerPoint.
Oh.
I can see the PowerPoint from where I'm at.
On the live stream?
Yep. Now
You
they're
might have a
available.
pause.
Okay, here we go. All right, everyone. This is a variation for an accessory detached garage for Mr. Potter at 6420 167th Street. As the slide indicates, this is located in an R1 district, which is our largest residential district. It's epitomized, going a little farther, epitomized by large lots, as noted in the small blue box there. This property, the subject property, exceeds all bulk requirements for the R1 district with respect to lot size, lot width, and front yard setback. Next, please. Currently, there is a one-car garage on the property. With this proposal, Mr. Potter wishes to take down the existing detached garage and put up a 3-car garage. In doing so, he is looking for a 152 square foot variation, so he can build an 872 square foot detached garage. This exceeds the maximum requirement in our code, which is 720 square feet. By building the larger detached garage, he is eliminating what he could do within code requirements of building two detached garages. He has elected to build one detached garage with the 3 stalls in it, which he feels is more aesthetically pleasing for his lot and less of an impact in the neighborhood. As with all variations, we seek not to set undue precedences. If you want to advance the slide. Therefore, we looked through prior variations that were approved in the village, and we had 2 that were similar in nature, and that was one on Gaynell Road and one on Dorothy Lane, both of which exceeded the size that is being requested this evening. And during the findings of both of those variations, it was noted that those garages were located on large lots. They were located with excessive setbacks from the front right-of-way, and they did not negatively impact the neighborhood or adjacent properties. If you would please advance the slide. The proposed architecture on this detached garage provides an enhancement to the property. They're looking at a standing seam roof and some stone along the base of the structure. As with all variances, we have standards, and we'll go through those at the closing of the hearing. Commission has the staff reports in front of them. Certainly what we look at in these cases, overall concern in approving any variance is to make sure we do not negatively impact the neighborhood. In this particular situation, we have an excessive setback from the right-of-way. We also have a very large lot, and we have the ability to screen this from all surrounding properties. That concludes my report, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Paula. So at this time, I will ask the commissioners if they have any comments or discussion on this matter. Commissioner Engel.
None at this time.
Commissioner Manny.
No comment.
Commissioner Stanton.
No comment. It's just a great piece of property. He's done a great job there, so I think this will be great.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gatto.
No comment.
Commissioner Aitchison.
No comment.
Commissioner Gaskell.
Nothing from me.
And Commissioner West.
No comment.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. I also echo Commissioner Stanton's comments. It does look great, so it's a nice improvement for the neighborhood. Mr. Potter, do you wish to add any comments at this time?
Nope, nothing.
If
Thank
not-
you.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Potter. Okay, so there's no comments from Mr. Potter. Staff, is there anyone from the public wishing to comment on this item?
Chairperson, this is.
There was no staff.
Go ahead, Paula, sorry.
I'm sorry, this is Paula. We received no public comments. I'm sorry, I interjected the clerk there. She did not receive any comments today by noon.
Okay, well, put that in the record. Commission, is there any other further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'm sorry, this is,
I'm sorry, could you say your name, please?
this is Commissioner West. I'm sorry, I've lost my place.
I'm just looking for a motion to close the public hearing, if you want to.
This is Commissioner West, and I motion to close the public portion.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Commissioner Stanton, second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner West, seconded by Commissioner Stanton. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yeah.
Manny,
Yeah.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Vic, sorry, he's not here, Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Motion carried. Staff, at this time, please review the standards for a variation.
Thank you, Chairman. As with all variances, we are statutorily required to meet 3 standards. Most of us are familiar with these, but beginning, the first one is that the property cannot yield a reasonable return if it's permitted only to be used within the regulations that exist on that district right now. And while the property can obviously have a reasonable return meeting the code, the fact that it exceeds regulations in terms of size, setback, and that the larger detached garage mitigates and eliminates the opportunity to, or the possibility of building 2 detached garages, it is felt that this is a more aesthetically pleasing and less of an impact on the neighborhood. The second is regarding the plight of the owner due to the unique circumstances, and certainly the size of the lot and the setbacks and the fact that it has minimal impact on the surrounding neighborhood results in a unique circumstance for the owner. The third standard is that the variation, if we grant it, it doesn't alter the essential character of the locality. And as mentioned previously, all the factors of the bulk regulation showing that the size of the existing parcel, the location of the proposed garage, and the ability to adequately screen from the surrounding neighborhood certainly results in a minimal impact on the adjacent properties. That concludes my standards, Chairman.
Thank you, Paula. At this time, I have a motion for approval on this request.
Commissioner Gaskill, I make a motion to recommend that the village grant the petitioner Brian Potter a 152 square foot variation from section 3.1.2.e of the zoning ordinance residential accessory structures to permit construction of an 872 square foot detached garage instead of the 720 square foot maximum floor area at 6420 167th Street Drive in the R1 single-family residential zoning district, consistent with the list of submitted plans attached herein, and adopt findings of fact as proposed by village staff and as may be amended by the Plan Commission at this meeting, subject to the following condition: a maximum of one detached garage shall be permitted on the subject property.
This is Commissioner West. I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner West. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion carried. This item will go to the village board for approval on Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. So, Mr. Potter, please make note of that date and either tune in or be part of the meeting. Thank you. The second item on tonight's agenda is a public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant Top Hospitality LLC, the property owner, a map amendment, rezoning, and variations from the zoning code for two parcels that total approximately 8.7 acres in size at 9551 and 9555 183rd Street off of White Eagle Drive and south of 183rd Street. The parcels are proposed to be zoned B3, General Business and Commercial, upon annexation. Upon annexation, the granting of these requests will allow for the lots to be developed as two Marriott brand hotels, Courtyard and Residence Inn. The request also includes a plat of re-subdivision and site plan approval. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
This is Commissioner West. So moved.
Commissioner Gaskill, second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner West, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion carried. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter will be sworn in before they speak and after the staff's presentation. The village staff provided confirmation that appropriate notice regarding the public hearing was published in the local newspaper in accordance with state law and village requirements. Staff, please proceed with your presentation at this time.
Thank you, Chairman Gray. Could you please advance the PowerPoint? The first slide for the hotel. This is a project we're all very excited about. As Commissioner Gray mentioned, it proposes 2 Marriott-branded hotels, Courtyard and Residence Inn. This is located south of 183rd and east of Route 45. Previously, we discussed most of this at our workshop, so I'm going to briefly do an overview of the project. If you could advance the slide, please, to the background and zoning slide. The property is currently located in unincorporated Will County. As part of this proposal, we will be annexing the property. It comprises 8.7 acres in total, but at the end of the day, when we annex the right-of-way to the south of the property, we'll have a total of 9.15 acres annexed into the village. As mentioned previously, we have 2 hotels, the Marriott Courtyard. It's a 4-story structure with 125 guest rooms. It comprises 83,722 square feet. It will include a banquet hall and meeting rooms and amenities such as a fitness center, a lounge with dining, indoor pool, fitness center, and bar. The companion hotel, Residence Inn, is also a 4-story structure comprising 87,875 square feet. It has 118 rooms, and it's programmed primarily for extended stay. Is offering some amenities, including outdoor area and a lounge room and a small meeting room. The property is surrounded by ORI office and restricted industrial property to the north, B3 zoning, commercial zoning to the west, and some residential zoning to the east. As noted in your staff report and on the slide, if you want to advance to the variation slide, it appears to be a lot of variations. I don't want that to scare you. Some of them are a consequence of just the location in the urban overlay district. The primary variations I think that are being sought and are of any significance on this property is probably the height. They're looking for a 4-story height with the courtyard or the residence being at 55 feet and 10 inches and the courtyard structure being at 54 feet 9.5 inches. In the B3 district, we have a maximum of 3 stories and 35 feet. We'll go over that variation request later in the report. We're also looking at a parking variation and some building material variations that we'll also discuss later. As I mentioned, this is located in the urban design overlay district, which prioritizes pedestrian access over vehicle access and more of an urban design with diminished setbacks. Because of the unique location of this property, it is difficult to accomplish a lot of those. We will talk about those a little bit later, but there are 3 variations resulting from the fact that they're actually located in the overlay district, primarily related to their setbacks. And the last grouping of variations is related to the signage, and again, they're fairly minor, and again, it's a consequence of the fact that we have a unique lot configuration of this parcel because we're trying to provide 2 hotels on one parcel and making sure that we're lotting out this parcel with shared access to the detention basin. The next slide where we're looking at the plat, I think that's probably one of the things that was a little bit confusing in the beginning when we looked at this parcel. If you recall on the site plan that we have a detention basin at the southern end of the parcel as well as some wetland areas. We wanted to make sure that each hotel included a portion of the detention area so that the long-term maintenance responsibilities were equally shared between the 2 properties. They'll be under separate ownership. Therefore, the platting of this property resulted in kind of a unique configuration and also resulted in the fact that we don't have a lot of lot frontage on right-of-ways. Our ordinance does allow us to do this, provided there's unique circumstances such as the fact that I just outlined with the detention and the wetlands. Therefore, the plat, as we get to that approval later certainly meets the intent and integrity of the village's subdivision regulations. We provided cross-access easements throughout the property so that anyone accessing the property, as well as parking easements, so anyone parking on the facility can be equally shared throughout the ownership of the hotels. If you'd like to advance to the next slide under annexation and rezoning. One of the unique aspects in studying this was the fact that it is surrounded by ORI, and our comprehensive plan actually states that this site should be office and restricted industrial. However, as most of you know, our comprehensive plan dates back to 2000, and it was certainly prior to any of our economic development initiatives to provide a commercial corridor to Route 45. Therefore, we had two choices. We could go ORI or we could go B3 because hotels were allowed in both, but it certainly fits better in the B3 district, which is described as the general business and commercial district, versus an ORI, which seeks to find more corporate office structures and land uses. Therefore, the recommendation is to look at this as a B3 district. Let's move to the next slide regarding, actually, the next slide, I just wanted to make sure everyone realized there was some concern about this in our workshop and how close we were to adjacent residential properties. There is a multifamily development to the east, north of 183rd, and then there is some single-family development south of 183rd. But you can see that the distance between that and the proposed hotel will be 808 feet. And we also certainly hope to see some development between those two uses that will help mitigate any impact of the proposed hotel uses or their proposed height. So let's go to the site plan revision slide. At our last workshop, there were some areas that were discussed that were of some concern and were left as open items. All of these have been addressed by the applicant. One of the probably major issues was that entryway access point that runs along the south side of the Boulevard Hotel was only 24 feet wide. We have increased that to 26 because that's going to receive a significant amount of traffic because it'll be feeding both hotels. The remaining aisles have been left at 24 feet, which is adequate to address all the turning radius of delivery trucks or fire trucks. Those have all been run through the auto term templates on the site plan, and they satisfactorily meet those requirements. We also have the landscape boulevard at the entrance that we felt enhanced the aesthetic approach to both hotels, and so the applicant did provide that for us, and that's the location where you'll see a sign that will, a ground-mounted sign that will address signage for both hotels. Another issue that we discussed at the workshop was the outdoor basketball court. We had quite a lengthy discussion about that, and I think there was unanimous concern about the noise of the bouncing balls and just the overall aesthetics of having a basketball court in that area. The applicant listened to your concerns, and he removed that from the sign, and he's left this as an open outdoor game area. He's mentioned there might be some, large-scale chessboards or other similar outdoor games, or just a passive seating area in that area. It will be screened with an open wrought iron fence, and I think certainly makes for a better choice of that space for the site plan. Other issues that were listed in the workshop and continue to be supported by staff include the sidewalk network throughout the site, the dumpster locations, and the fact that they have made sure that those are encased or enclosed by brick consistent with the brick on the matching buildings. If you'd like to advance the next slide for landscaping. I think overall they've done a great job improving the appearance of the site and providing additional landscaping. There were a couple areas that were deficiencies, and they've taken care of those, including making sure the entryway is a lush approach to both hotels. As part of this landscaping, we did lose 6 parking spaces, but those have been provided for, and we will talk about the parking deficiencies later and the fact that they have provided a land-banked place for parking south of the residence hotel. Let's move on to architecture. This again, we had a lot of discussion on this. The residents, probably a little bit less of a concern, but the courtyard, that's the first slide. And if you go on to the next 2 slides, we have a before rendering, and then after that we have an after rendering of the residence inn. Of the boulevard. Of the courtyard, excuse me, of the courtyard, Marriott Courtyard. Dan had done a really good job. He had researched some other architecture seen around the country, and he had found a good example of a courtyard residence hotel in Kansas City. And I think the commission was very impressed with it. And so the applicant modified the proposal and took some of those more pronounced enhancements and added them to the rendering and elevation that we had before. Probably the most significant being the glass tower that will be seen at the west end or along the right-of-way frontage there. And additional brick was provided on the property that provided, I guess, not only more aesthetically pleasing, but added to some articulation of the facade along the front of the courtyard elevation. There was some discussion of the building material that was being used, and if we were all there together today, we would show you the samples. Staff has reviewed them and is comfortable in supporting those. There is a panel, a cementatious panel that will be used on the front on all facades of this hotel, and it's very attractive. It results in a fairly modern look to the property. If we want to move on to the parking section, there's a table in front of you that talks about some of the concerns that we had as a result of discovering that the banquet use in the facility is something that, because of our recent text amendments regarding banquet facilities, we expressed a concern of meeting those parking requirements. The owner of Marriott feels very comfortable with the amount of parking that has been provided and is consistent to what they have experienced in other hotels. Certainly with the shared parking opportunities between both hotels and what they perceive is going to be the peak time that these banquet facilities would be used, they have stated they don't feel it's an issue. However, we wanted to make sure that we had a backup for this, and we have recommended a land banking for the parking. If you move to the next slide, you'll see that there's parking to the south of the residence inn with a land bank that parking, which at any time, either of their own volition or at a request of the village, we can get that parking area constructed and get 25 additional parking stalls. The lighting and the signage remains as we discussed at the workshop. There will be a sign at the entryway boulevard that will address both hotels, and we'll certainly need to provide, and we have provided in the plat of subdivision, the appropriate easements to handle off-site signage on that property. And that concludes my report, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Paula. At this time, I would like to ask the commissioners if they have any comments or discussion on this matter? Beginning with Commissioner Gatto.
Not at this time.
Commissioner Stanton.
No.
Commissioner Manny.
No comment.
Commissioner Engel.
None at this time.
Commissioner West.
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Gaskell. Commissioner Gaskell.
I'm sorry, nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Aitchison.
Not at this time.
Okay, and my comments are the buildings look great. I do appreciate top hospitality's cooperation with working with the staff. I think all the changes have really come along, and I appreciate the basketball moving into just a game area. I think those are great changes. At this time, I would like to ask the petitioner if they would like to add any comments.
Nope, this is Tiffany Thompson from Mahoney Silverman and Cross. We don't have any comments at this time other than just one clarification that the property is currently located in unincorporated Cook County, not Will County. But other than that, Paula gave a great presentation, and we appreciate your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Tiffany, and I appreciate your patience throughout this whole process. We're in uncharted waters these times, so thank you. Is there anyone from the public wishing to comment on this item at this time?
No emails or calls.
Hearing none? Okay, and who is speaking?
This is Laura.
Okay, Laura. Okay, no emails or calls from the public. Okay, thank you, Laura. And I'll ask the commissioners one more time if there's any further discussion on this matter. Hearing there's no further questions or discussion, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Commissioner Gaskell, so moved.
Commissioner Aitchison, I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Aitchison. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
West?
Yes.
Gaskell?
Yes.
Aitchison?
Yes.
Gatto?
Yes.
Stanton?
Yes.
Manny?
Yes.
Engel?
Yes.
Chairman Gray?
Yes. Motion carried. Staff, please review the standards for these requests.
Thank you, Chairman Gray. We have a couple standards to run through. First of all, for rezoning, although our ordinance doesn't specifically provide those standards, we do refer to the LaSalle standards as guidance in looking at any rezoning. I think the primary thing regarding this is that we look at it in context of the area. And as I mentioned before, we had an option of going B3 or ORI. It certainly makes more sense to be consistent with the adjacent land uses, the two hotels to the west, and the fact that we are working towards a commercial corridor along Route 45. Therefore, the appropriateness of the rezoning to a B3 is consistent with the overall context of the neighborhood, does not diminishing any impact on adjacent undeveloped property, and provides, although not pure consistency with our comprehensive plan, it certainly does with the intent of the commercial corridor. Regarding the variations, as you know, we had quite a few variations, and as I mentioned, I think one of the more significant ones was height, in which we start to look at that and look at the ability to mitigate the impact of the height from the adjacent residential neighborhoods, not only by the 800-plus foot distance, but the fact that there will probably be development in between the two uses. Similar to the Potter variation, we're going to look at the three required standards that we have to address in looking at any variation. The first being that the property cannot yield a reasonable return if it's permitted only to be used under the regulations of this district. Thinking through all the variety of variations that we're looking at, including the UDO variations and the building material variations, we have to look at the uniqueness of the property, the fact that we have some existing wetlands on the property, the fact that we have provided adequate distance from adjacent dislike uses and have an ability to mitigate those by that separation and development between the two. We feel that we've appropriately addressed the proposed development within the context of the regulations that currently exist in the village. The second standard starts to look at the uniqueness of the property. Similarly, we look at the drainage ways, the configuration of the lot, frontage on public right-of-ways. This property is set back from Route 45, which is its primary vantage points, and 183rd. We certainly have been able to negotiate high-end architecture from the property owner, and we feel that we've been able to mitigate any potential impact of the proposal to the surrounding areas. And pretty much the same answer pertains to our last standard, where we look at the essential character of the locality. We feel that we're being consistent with the two hotels that exist there now, in not only design, but in the choice of building materials. The last set of standards, I don't believe they're in your PowerPoint, but we do look at our architectural standards and our site plan standards. Staff has done that as part of the review and as part of the negotiation for the best product being put before you. We looked at building materials. We certainly looked at scale and rhythm of the fenestrations on both facades. We looked at excuse me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So I believe that we've met the intent and the standards, not only for the site plan requirements for architectural as well. And that concludes my standards, Chairman.
Thank you, Paula. There are 4 motions on this item for rezoning, variations, site plan, and the final plat. May I have the first motion for rezoning approval?
This is Commissioner Gatto. I'll make a motion to grant the petitioner Top Hospitality LLC site plan approval to construct 2 hotels at 9551 and 9555 183rd Street in the B3 General Business Commercial Zoning District in accordance with the plan submitted and listed herein and subject to the recommendation conditions as listed in the April 16, 2020 staff report.
Do I hear a second?
This is Commissioner Manny. I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Gatto, seconded by Commissioner Manny. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion carried. May I have a second motion for variation approval?
This is Commissioner Engel. I'd like to make a motion to recommend that the village board grant the variations as listed April 16th, 2020 staff report. The petitioner, Top Hospitality LLC, at the properties located at 9551 and 9555 183rd Street in the B3 zoning district, in accordance with the plan submitted and listed herein, and adopt findings of fact and recommended conditions as proposed by village staff in the staff report.
This is Commissioner Stanton. I second that motion.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Engel, seconded by Commissioner Stanton. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion is carried. May I have a third motion for site plan approval?
This is Commissioner Stanton. I'd like to make a motion to grant the petitioner Top Hospitality LLC site plan approval to construct 2 hotels at 9551 and 9555 183rd Street in the B3 General Business and Commercial Zoning District, in accordance with the plans submitted and listed herein, and subject to the recommended conditions as listed in the April 16th, 2020 staff report.
This is Commissioner Engel. I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Stanton, seconded by Commissioner Engel. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
West,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Engel,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Motion carried. May I have a final motion for final plat approval?
This is Commissioner Manny. I will make a motion to recommend that the village board grant approval to the petitioner, Top Hospitality LLC, final plat of subdivision for the New Horizons subdivision in accordance with the final plat submitted and dated February 27, 2020, subject to the recommended conditions as listed in the April 16, 2020 staff report.
This is Commissioner Gatto. I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Manny, seconded by Commissioner Gatto. Secretary, can I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion carried. So these items will go to the village board for approval on Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. So Tiffany, please make note of this date and reach out to staff into how you can about how you can attend. With that, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The third item on tonight's agenda is a combined workshop and public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant Margie Oliver of Dolan Realty Advisors on behalf of Verizon Wireless a special use permit to amend ordinance number 2010-0-044 to permit 3 additional antennas for a total of 12 antennas with the existing stealth flagpole cellular tower located at 9001 171st Street, Andrew High School, in the R3 single-family residential zoning district. All 3 new antennas will be located within the existing stealth flagpole, and all ground equipment will be located within an existing nearby building, previously a concession stand. We will begin with a workshop. Staff, please make your presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a good example of what we try to do in mitigating the impact of cell towers that seem to pop up everywhere in our landscape. This began back in 2010, I guess. What happened, it actually began earlier than that, but the approval was in 2000, and let me see here, December, I believe it was, 2010. I apologize, I had this written down somewhere and I can't find it now. The original installation was in 2009. But in 2010, the final approval was provided, and we're looking to add 3 more to the approved 9 antennas that were put inside this stealth flagpole at Andrew High School. Most of you know where Andrew High School is located. It's at 9001 171st Street, and it's located in the R3 zoning district. As with all of our antenna locations, we have a hierarchy of choice locations. And when this was discussed back when it was originally erected, there was a lot of discussion making sure that it didn't negatively impact the surrounding residential areas. Certainly, there was an express need for it back in it was in 2010. It was eventually erected in 2011. And not only due to the surrounding uses, but because of the unique location of the high school and games and so forth, there was a pronounced need for telecommunication antennas in this area. But since that time, Verizon has indicated a deficiency in their coverage in this area. You can see in this beautiful map here that, for those of you that can tell, there is a deficit of, and they call these rings, these navigation and propagation rings, where it was evident that they needed additional antennas in this area. So they proposed to add 3 more antennas inside of the flagpole. No impact in terms of the aesthetics of the flagpole as it exists now. There's an existing vacant concession stand on the property that they propose to put their ancillary equipment. And then with respect to running the cable from the antenna to the concession stand, there's something they term them dog houses at the base of the flag pole, which is consistent to what you see out there now to house that equipment. If you want to move to the next slide, there is a site plan that kind of shows you where this is located adjacent to the athletic field at Andrew High School. One of the things that I was made aware of actually just recently as of this afternoon is that they're having trouble with the existing flag that's on the pole is torn and weathered, and Andrew High School had requested us to see if we could get that replaced. I did speak with Margie from Dolan Realty, and she was very nice and said that she would be willing to replace that flag. So this evening, when we do make a motion, if the commissioner could please add to that a condition of approval to provide a new flag to the high school prior to issuance of a building permit. There certainly is a nexus between the two, and the fact that these antennas are camouflaged in the flagpole, which its main purpose is to fly the American flag, and therefore not having a nice, clean flag up there would impact the aesthetics that we're trying to mitigate by putting it in a stealth design in the first place. And that concludes my report, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Paula. Commission, at this time, I'll ask if you have any comments or discussion on the workshop portion of this request, beginning with Commissioner Engel.
None for me.
Commissioner Manny.
No comments.
Commissioner Stanton.
No comment.
Commissioner Gatto.
No comment.
Commissioner Aitchison.
No comment.
Commissioner Gaskell.
Nothing from me.
Commissioner West.
No, nothing to add.
Okay. The only comment I have is I agree with staff. I think it's a very good idea to get that nice new flag up there, because that's the purpose of the flagpole to begin with. So, good job, good report. We will proceed to the public hearing portion now. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
This is Commissioner Aitchison, so moved.
This is Commissioner Stanton. Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Aitchison, seconded by Commissioner Stanton. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Motion carried. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter will be sworn in before they speak after the staff's presentation. The village staff provided confirmation that appropriate notice regarding the public hearing was published in the local newspaper in accordance with state law and village requirements. Staff, do you have anything else to add to this prior to the public hearing?
Not at this time.
Okay, excellent. Commissioners, do you have any comments or discussion on this matter? Okay, hearing there are none, I will ask, would the petitioner wish to add any comments?
We do not have any at this time.
Okay, and what is your name?
This is Margie Oliver, and I also have Doug Nolan on the line with me as well.
Okay, Margie Oliver and Doug?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we recognize that you guys do not have any comments at this time. Is there anyone from the public wishing to comment on this item?
This is Laura. There were no emails or written comments and no requests for phone calls.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Commissioners, is there any further discussion on this matter? Speak now. Hearing none, we'll move on. If there are not any further questions or discussion, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Commissioner Gansfield, so
Commissioner West, I second that motion.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner West. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Okay, motion carried. Staff, please review the standards for a special use at this time.
Thank you, Chairman. We have several standards. They are listed in the staff report, and they will be incorporated in the minutes. But primarily, the intent of these standards is to make sure that we're protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the surrounding neighborhood, and that we're not unduly providing any injurious or negative impact of the properties that are either developed or undeveloped in the neighborhood. We also want to make sure that we have adequate utilities and road, and that all engineering has been taken care of with this proposed facility. The fact that we're using an existing stealth design certainly limits any possibility of negative impact. The 3 additional antennas are not even going to be visible to the naked eye. There will be ancillary equipment that are going to be housed in an existing concession stand, and as I mentioned, the doghouse at the base of the flagpole is consistent with what you see out there. Therefore, there's very, if any, impact on the surrounding neighborhood. We also have our typical standards for site plan approval, where we look at everything from access to internal circulation, and all of those, again, because it's an existing stealth design, I think certainly meet the standards for site plan approval. My only final comment for those making the motion, we want to remember the kindness of the applicant, but we want to include the condition of providing a new flag to Andrew High School prior to issuance of a building permit.
Okay, thank you, Paula. We appreciate the presentation. There are 2 motions on this item for site plan approval and a special use permit. May I have the first motion for site plan approval?
This is Commissioner Stanton. I'll make a motion to grant the petitioner, Margie Oliver of Dolan Realty Advisors, on behalf of Verizon Wireless, site plan approval for the addition of 3 antennas on the existing Disguised Cellular Tower site at 7001 171st Street, Victor J. Andrew High School, in the R3 single-family residential zoning district, in accordance with the plan submitted and listed herein.
This is Commissioner Aitchison. I second that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Stanton, seconded by Commissioner Aitchison. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Motion carried. May I have a second motion for a special use permit approval?
This is Commissioner Gatto. I would like to make a motion to recommend the village board grant a special use permit to the petitioner, Margie Oliver of Dolan Realty Advisors, on behalf of Verizon Wireless, to amend ordinance 201-0-044 and permit an additional 3 antennas for a total of 12 on the existing distinguished flagpole cell tower located at 7001 171 Street, Victor J. Andrew High School, in the R3 single-family residential zoning district, in accordance with the plan submitted and listed herein, and adopt findings of fact as proposed by the village staff in the staff report.
This is Commissioner Manny. I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by...
Do I need?
Yes. Commissioner Gatto, please add the condition of the
Yep.
flag to your...
Yep. Okay. On condition that the petitioner adds a new flag to the existing flagpole.
Thank you.
Do I hear a
Mr.
second?
Manny, I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Gatto, seconded by Commissioner Manny. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Motion carried. So these items will go to the village board for approval on Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. So Margie, please note the date and reach out to staff to get info on how to attend the village board meeting. And thank you for your time. We appreciate you coming to us.
Thank you. Will do. Have a
Thank
great
you
day.
all.
Okay, the final item on tonight's agenda is a public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant a proposed text amendment to the Tinley Park zoning ordinance clarifying section 12.3.A legacy code uses and section 5B schedule of regulations for short-term rental uses and section 5C 4B masonry requirements for residential masonry requirements. The purpose of this amendment is to clarify portions of two recent code updates for masonry requirements on residential properties and for short-term rental allowances. May I have a motion to open the public hearing at this time?
This is Commissioner Engel, so moved.
Commissioner Stanton, second.
Motion made by Commissioner Engel, seconded by Commissioner Stanton. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
West,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Engel,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. A motion carried. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter will be sworn in before they speak after the staff's presentation. Staff, please proceed with your presentation at this time. And I want to note the village staff provided confirmation that appropriate notice regarding the public hearing was published in the local newspaper in accordance with state law and village requirements. Go ahead, staff. Make your presentation.
Thank you. Everyone's doing such a fantastic job, and we're in the home stretch. This is probably the easiest public hearing, and it's brought forth by the village as almost a clerical and cleanup of some recent text amendments. I think you've heard me tell you before that when we start doing text amendments and adopting new ordinances, and in my career, it almost always has some follow-up of amendment as we start to use those text amendments, and we find during our course of utilizing them that maybe we forgot something here or there. So these are important text amendments for you to consider and approve this evening, but they are not overly significant. So let's take masonry first of all. And what we did with this text amendment back in 2019 is we were primarily taking the masonry requirements out of the building code and bringing them into the zoning code where they belong. And in doing so, one of the things that we wanted to make sure is we were maintaining the restrictions for single-family housing that have been in place for a very long time in our village, but we wanted to recognize modern architecture and new building materials primarily in our industrial districts. And so we changed the definition of masonry to include precast concrete panels, which you commonly see in large-scale industrial buildings. What we didn't think about is that when we changed the definition for masonry to include precast panels, that when someone was using the code for a residential structure, they were abiding by the same definition. And we certainly don't want to see precast concrete panels on our houses. So our senior planner, Dan, he's the eagle eye, he discovered this. And so that's basically what we're doing here is we're just cleaning that language up to make sure that when looking at single-family homes or semi-detached, single-family semi-detached homes, that exterior wall is constructed of face brick or decorative stone, and it does not allow for those concrete panels. And then the second amendment that you're going to be looking at this evening is regarding short-term rentals. That code was approved back in July of 2019 as a result of some concerns of the use of short-term rentals in excess would begin to deteriorate the single-family fabric of our community. Therefore, the ordinance was created and restrictions were provided, and we were primarily looking at single-family homes in those single-family home districts. What we did not take into consideration is that our R6 and R7 residential districts, which originally were primarily addressed attached housing, single-family detached housing is also allowed in those districts. And we do have some occurrences of that in the village where we have single-family homes in the R6 and R7 districts. So in the original adoption, we made sure that no two short-term rentals could exist closer than 500 feet, and we wanted to make sure that that continued to be the case even in the R6 and the R7 districts. At this time, the way our ordinance and its companion licensing permits, we only allow one short-term rental per location a year. So it's a fairly restrictive as it is written now. However, we have to make sure our code is evergreen, I guess, and that it accounts for any future changes. If in the future someone, the board decides to increase the number of licenses, we want to make sure our code maintains the integrity of what the original intent was, and that we didn't end up with clusters of short-term rentals in any one neighborhood. The other issue was we failed to address short-term rentals in the Legacy District, and that's our downtown area. And we had a good discussion about this previously, in that in some respects, short-term rentals might be an appropriate use in the core of the downtown, where it functions as to accommodate the downtown tourism trade. You all know we're trying to build a plaza down there, and we have a metro station. So in some senses, a short-term rental might be an appropriate use. But at this time, especially since we're only allowing one license for property, and we do have some multifamily structures that are being proposed in that area, we felt, and the Plan Commission discussed this is not the time to entertain short-term rentals in the Legacy District, and therefore we're recommending that they be prohibited. So those are two motions that are before you this evening, the first one regarding masonry and the second regarding short-term rental. And that concludes my report, Chairman.
Thank you, Paula. Commissioners, at this time I will ask if you have any comments or discussion on this matter, beginning with Commissioner Gatto.
No.
Commissioner Stanton.
No.
Commissioner Manny.
No comment.
Commissioner Engel.
None for me.
Commissioner West.
No.
Commissioner Gaskell.
No.
Commissioner Aitchison.
No.
Okay, is there anyone from the public wishing to comment on this item? Laura, did you receive any response from the public?
No response, public comment response from the public on this.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, is there any other further discussion on this matter? I'll just wait for about 5 seconds. Hearing none. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
This is Commissioner Manning. So moved.
This is Commissioner Gatto. I second that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Manny, seconded by Commissioner Gatto. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Motion carried. There are two motions for this item, one for residential masonry requirements and one for short-term rental in the Legacy District. May I have the first motion for approval of the residential masonry text amendment?
This is Commissioner Aitchison. I'll make a motion to recommend that the village board approve text amendments to section B.C.4.B, masonry requirements of the Village of Tinley Park zoning ordinance as indicated in the staff report dated February 20th, 2020. The proposed text amendment will clarify the materials permitted to be utilized on the first story of new residential structures.
This is Commissioner Stanton. I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Aitchison, seconded by Commissioner Stanton. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes?
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Motion carried. At this time, may I have a second motion for approval of the short-term rental legacy code text amendment?
This is Commissioner West. I will make a motion to recommend that the village board approve text amendments to section B.B, Schedule 1, Schedule of Permitted Uses, and section 12.3.A, Legacy Code Uses of the Village of Tinley Park zoning ordinance, as indicated in the staff report dated February 20th, 2020. The proposed text amendment will amend section 5.B, Schedule 1, to add footnotes to the R6 and R7 zoning districts, clarify those footnotes, and to prohibit short-term rentals in the Legacy Code district.
Commissioner Gaskell, second staff.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner West, seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes?
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Motion carried. This item will go to the village board for approval on Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. If there is nothing further, well, I just would like to add kudos to the staff tonight for rising to the occasion, again, in these crazy times, to put together the meeting. I appreciate it. And also for the cooperation of all our commissioners. It's a team effort, so I appreciate everybody's effort on behalf of the Village of Tinley Park. But if there's nothing further, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Commissioner Stanton,
Commissioner
so
Gaskell.
moved.
I heard Commissioner Gaskell make the first motion, and Commissioner Engel made the second motion. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Aitchison,
Yes.
Gaskell,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Yes. Motion carried. This meeting is adjourned at 8:24 p.m. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.